Hello, all, and welcome. Uh, I'm Marcelo Souza. I'm from Brazil. I'm responsible for Thomas International here in Brazil, and I'd like to discuss a little bit about unconscious bias with you guys. So we will discuss how it affects our day-to-day decisions and why this is a problem. So our agenda here will cover the definition of unconscious bias. And by definitions, I will show you some types, some examples. What's the problem with the unconscious bias when we decide something in our day-to-day activities? Some tips for when you have to make a decision on people's management process, especially recruitment and hire. And in the end, we have a Q&A session. So start with the definition. Let's begin in the beginning, right? So the definition of unconscious bias is the first impression, right? Is the importance of the first impression we make about something. And we have to keep in mind that this first impression that we all have is not something that just came up. It's something that is built by our culture, our experience, our family, our values, our culture, and everything. So unconscious bias is all the implicit bias we have and then that we use when we decide about something. And I would like to start making a question to you. How long do you think does it take us to make a judgment about someone? Do you think it's a tenth of a second, 2 seconds, 30 seconds, 5 minutes? How long do you think does it takes? According to this study, it takes just a tenth of a second for you to decide, for you to make a judgment about someone. And I believe that most of you just make an assumption or a judgment about myself as soon as you see my face here in the screen. And that's just like it. So, how does it affect our daily basis decision? Is this so important? So, let's see. That's more than 100 types of unconscious bias, according to the specialists. And I'll talk to you briefly about 12 of them. 12 types of unconscious bias that really affect our decisions regarding to people. The first three one I will speak a little bit in more detail for you. The others I will pass briefly because there's not enough time to discuss about all of them. So the first one, gender bias. And what is gender bias? Is when you decide something about someone only based on the gender. You know, when you say, oh, this is a man's job or this is a woman's job, when we talk about job, there's nothing about gender. We have to decide it by competences. If the person has or not the competences that they need to make the job, to get the job done. But usually, we always make decisions based on gender. And this is so deeply in our culture, in our decisions, that a man has 1.5 times higher odds to be hired for a position than a woman. Imagine a man is 1.5 times likely to be hired for a position than a woman. Crazy, isn't it? But that's the times we live on. So when we decide about something, let's decide about what really affects the results. And we know it's not gender. We have the confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is very present in our life today. You know, confirmation bias is when you take a part of an information or only a data just to get to the conclusion that you want. So you believe in something, so you don't see the whole picture. You just take the information or the data that says exactly what you want to hear and use this to make a decision. So today, when we talk about social media, just Facebook, Twitter, and everything, we saw a lot of this, right? We have people that believe that we live in a flattened Earth, and we know the Earth is a globe, but they only take a part of information and they say, this is why the earth is flattened, but it's not. We have a lot of information and the science to prove that we live in a globe. We have the affinity bias, and this is really, really affecting our decisions regarding to people. Affinity bias, it's when you decide something only based on the things you have in common with the other person. So you look for informations that make you share interests or have similar tastes with the other person. So you try to understand if he or she went to the same university you have a similar background, uh, is a fan of the same sports team that you are, and you look for those things just to engage with the person, right? And then you decide about something based on this, and you don't take in account all the other things that is important. Affinity bias is one that affects the most when we talk about a relationship in the workplace. So we really have to take care about it when we decide about people. We have conformity bias is when you change yourself just to fit in, right? Or you change the way you are or the things you believe just to fit in the group you are. You have attribution bias. It's when you judge something or someone just based on what they do, the job role they have, or what they study, or what they did in their life. You have ageism, beauty bias, and hate bias. Those are the judgment we do based only on personal characteristics of the person or in the age. Oh, he's too old for the job, he's too young for the job. In the beauty, oh, he's not beauty enough for this position, or he's too beautiful for this position. Or in the height bias, oh no, he's too high for this, or he's too short for this. Where in the profession life does it matter? Unless you are a basketball player, your height doesn't count for anything in the workplace, right? And even short guys can be a very good basket players, right? The name bias, it's becoming a real common these days because people judge someone based in their last names. Because of the roots of their last names, they think they know everything about the person and they decide about this. So this is really a problem. You also have the halo effect and the horns effect. The halo effect, it's when you believe the person it's the perfect for the job, is a great professional just because he or she did something good in the past. So if he only did something good once, you never want to see anything more because you believe he's the best, he's greatest, and he will be your angel forever. The horns effect is the opposite. The horns effect is when you only take one thing that that person did wrong and then you never believe in he or she again. You think, oh, you can trust him, everything he does, I have to take a closer look because we can't trust him. Just because he make one mistake, you never believe in him again. And you have the contrast effect. The contrast effect, it's when you take two things that the person does and exaggerate the performance for good or the bad in the one against the other because you want to make it sounds better or worse when you talk to this person. So you have all these unconscious bias acting together in our day-to-day activities, especially inside our brain regarding to people's decisions. And this is really hard to take it out. But Marcelo, what does it exists? Why do we have this unconscious bias? The specialist says that it's extremely important for our evolution as a species because it helps us to make very fast and important decisions to keep alive. So it's not a bad thing, right? The bad thing is when you use this in a very complex scenario like we have today. So that's the problem. The problem is that we can't get it out because it's in our brain and we don't take it in account when we decide, especially about people. So we still make a lot of decisions only based on our conscious bias and not based on data and facts. And then if you does this, you will lose really talented people because you don't select people, or you don't promote people, or you don't judge them by their performance, or the fact. You judge them based on your bias, on what you believe or what you want. You will have a harder time to promoting innovation and creativity, because we know for a fact, and there's a lot of studies that proves this, that diversity encourage creativity and innovation in teams. You will disconnect from customers and stakeholders, and you know for a fact that you don't have one kind of customers, you have a lot of kind of customers. So you have to connect to them to make a sale, to make them engage to you. And how you do this if you only judge by your bias? And it will break all the diversity needs and programs in your company. So when you fight unconscious bias, you will help all those things to happen in your company. We have a lot of studies that shows how diversity uh, improves the results of companies. You have this one of McKinsey. McKinsey did a long study in 2015 and 2016, and they showed this in a paper in 2017, proving that those companies that have diversity in their team have better financial performance. Credit Suisse made a huge study about stock market, and they prove that the companies that have women in their board has a better stock performance. And we know by this Robert Walters survey in 2017 that 45% of employees believe that the recruitment tools are ineffective at recruiting diverse talent. And you know that today, those young people looking for this. They want diversity. They want to improve diversity in the places that they work. So you will lose the best people if you don't have a diversity and inclusion culture. But if we know what it is, and it's so bad to make a team to improve diversity and to improve results in the end, that's what we want, how we can tackle it and how it's so hard to tackle it. First, it's so hard to tackle it because unconscious bias, it's part of our decision making process all of our lives. So we always use this since we are born to today. So all of our lives we judge and we take decisions based in our unconscious bias. But is this the most important factor regarding to people? What we have to use to make decisions when we are dealing with people. So this study that shows the correlation of the tools you use when you evaluate people. And if you are deciding by the handwriting, sorry to say, but the handwriting is not a predictor of success. It has zero correlation of future success in a job role. Experience, it's only 16% of predictor in a success of a new job role. Only 16%. And people still use this as the most important thing to hire or to promote someone. But if someone is the best salesperson in your competitor and you say, oh, I want to hire him or I want to hire her, and you don't take in account why they are having all that great results, you will have a problem because previous result is not uh, is it doesn't is not certainty that they will give you a future result. You know, this professional is having this result because of the product, of the process, of the systems, of the marketing, and the people that work with him. It's not only him, It's all the structure and the process that has. So you have to understand him to understand how he connects to these other elements and how he will connect the elements in your company. So you have to understand the person deeply. That's why when you psychometrics, you get better understanding and better data to decide about people. And that's why personality behavior, structured interviews, and general intelligence are those that predict the most success in a future job or a future position in your company today. So, to tackle unconscious bias, the most important thing is to take the information that you need, to understand what information is relevant to make that decision about the person. The more information you have, the more you can get lost. So, you have to understand is it needed to have a success in that position and how you get this information from the person with psychometric assessment, with interviews, with peers information, how I'll get this information. And then with the information in your hand, then you can make a great decision and you can be fair in the decision you do because you use the same structure for all the candidates. We know that today a lot of companies are talking about cultural fit and they want people that fit their culture. We at Thomas believe that there's not only one culture inside the company. And if you want to promote diversity, you have to be open to diversity, culture diversity and not cultural fit. You have to be open to different person who will be added to your company and improve your culture and not to have more of the same. So if we use this, there's a problem for the manager because they will have to understand how to talk and how to engage of all those different people, but it will be great for the results and also great for the manager because they will be challenged to develop their management skills, people management skills, and they will have better results with those teams. So if we only talk about recruitment process, the best thing is to have a solid and strong process of hiring people, a process that don't rely only on the one that is making the interviews. Because we know that everyone has unconscious bias and it's very, very hard to take it out of our decision making. We will use them in our decision making. It's almost impossible to let it out. So we have to build a process that make us uh, not be make more diverse people get in, and then we'll decide based on a diverse kind of list of candidates and not a lot of the same candidates. So if the process for itself let us understand a lot of different people, let us interview a lot of different people, we will uh, let our unconscious bias aside because we know for a fact that we have it. We will learn how to deal with it, and the process will be giving us different kinds of candidates, and we will see the competence that we need. So a strong hiring process always starts with the definition of a job role. And this is the most important step here because usually we only define a job role based on technical skills or experience. And that's not enough. We have to define a job role based on competence, behavior, personality. What do we really need to have success in that position? If we are able to do this in a very objective and an assertive way, then we will have very great results. You will, if you understand what you have to measure, what you have to analyze, you can choose the best tools, you can choose the right tools, and you can use the right tools in the beginning of the process. So all the candidates will be evaluated at the same times, and you won't lose candidates at the end of the process. You will include them in the beginning of the process based on the competence you need. So when you have a process like this, a strong process like this, the odds of we engage a diverse kind of talent professionals and hire great people are way higher. And if not, we can understand what's happening in the process. And usually we will see that the problem is in the end, right? Is in the one that is making the final interview that wants to keep hiring the same kind of person. And then we can make a decision training these people or changing who makes the interview. So when you use this kind of process, when you use psychology as your advantage predictor of success, you will be increasing diversity in your team, and then you will collect all the benefits of this. And this will help, definitely will help you to minimize the impact of unconscious bias on your decision about people management. Hey guys, hope you like it. I had to be fast here because we don't have too much time. I'll be at your disposal. You please feel free to share your comments, to give me your feedback, or to even send me a question, and I will be glad to answer you all. So it was very great to be with you all, guys. Thank you, YMC, for the invitation. Congratulations to Juan Carlo and all the team on the 21st anniversary, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Marcelo. Gracias. Acabamos aquí la conferencia y muchas gracias a todos.
Bye-bye.
Por favor, si quieren dirigirse ahora, los que estén interesados al auditorio principal, vamos a continuar con la conferencia. Marcelo, nuevamente un gran agradecimiento y aquí termina la conferencia.
Thank you. Obrigado a todos. Bye-bye.
Bye.